What is Docker? Docker is an open source platform. Docker help us to deploy the code, to ship the code, and run the application in production environment. In this diagram, we have host operating system, and top of that Docker engine is running. Docker engine allow us to create number of containers. Container is not a complete operating system. The operating system is with host OS. So number of container only have the required binaries and libraries which supports the application. So let's say example, if I need 4 container, so that doesn't mean I need to install 4 operating system on 4 containers. Basically in Docker technology, we need single operating system which we called as host operating system. And on single operating system, we can create number of containers, and these containers hold the applications. So for example, if you are working in application number 1, it will not going to affect application 2 and vice versa. So this provide a complete isolation between number of application which is running on the single host operating system. So in upcoming slides, we'll drill down more on this concept. Docker enable DevOps. That means, let's say example, we have a developer, we have the operation, development team writes the code, deploy the products, but there is a complete development life cycle. So they write the code, they build, they test, and after that they release, right? But between these phases, there is a long time, because sometimes the pre-prod environment is not same as a prod environment. Staging has some different version of tool, where production have some different version of tool. These complications take long time to release that application into the production environment. So here, DevOps allow us to reduce that gap and provide a complete bridge between the developer and the operation. So there will be no gaps in releasing the application into the production environment. But the question arises, how it's possible? How we can release the product into the production environment in lesser time? It is possible due to the DevOps concept in Docker. So all the environment, all the tools which we are using in the pre-prod or in the staging phases, that can be created as a single container, and that container we can use to create images, and that image can be simply deployed into the prod. So there is no change between the staging and into the production. So same set of binaries, same set of libraries, same set of tools, same set of application will be readily available into the production environment. So that reduces a huge time and make the company to release their products in a lesser time, and they can easily achieve their deadlines. Now let's talk about Docker container. If you look at in the diagram, one side we have the developer, other side we have IT operations. There is some set of component which is shared between them. That is a container OS. Basically, container OS is coming from the host OS. Container OS is not a complete set of OS. Container OS only require those files, those binaries to run the application, and rest of the binaries, rest of the libraries, rest of the component only reside with host operating system. So this become very lightweight. So container are basically takes very few seconds to spawn, take very few seconds to turn off, turn on, move, migrate. So any operation you are doing with a container, it's take very small time because it's a lightweight operating system. Top of that container OS, we have a runtime. Runtime is a component that allow the container to run the applications. So that is we called as a complete daemons, which is running top of that OS, is called as a Docker engine. And top of that Docker engine, we have number of applications. So let's say example, we have in container 1 a database. In container 2 we have a, let's say example, web server. In container 3 we have the middleware. So number of container we can create for different purpose. And here if you look at host OS and the hardware, and container OS lies between with IT operation. So if any issues come with your host OS, any issue with come hardware, that can be taken care by the IT operation team. Developer do not have to bother about this host OS server operating system. Only they have to just write the application and they have to test their own applications. So Docker allows the developer to build their application in a less time, in a quicker way, because only few components they have to concentrate. Let's talk about use case of Docker. How Docker helps the different organization to save a lot of money, to save a lot of hours, to save a lot of efforts. So Docker allows us to come out with the solution for the number of problems. Like for example, in this use case, the company or the organizations having the issue to deploy the number of processes or number of applications on the same server. All right, because they are getting the conflict issue between the processes. So they came across how we can isolate the processes from different application. Let's say example, I am deploying the application 1, I am deploying application 2, application 3 on the same server. Now what is the problem? Maybe the application 1 processes or daemon conflicting with the application number 2, and application 3 conflicting with application 2. So this kind of problem they have faced, and they found that there is a solution with a Docker, because Docker allow us to isolate the application 1 processes with other Docker which is running on the same server. So let's say example, I have 3 application A, B and C. So if you deploy the application into the 3 container 1, container 2 and container 3, so it will be never conflicts of application A daemon with the application B. All right, so they concluded with that container save their lot of problems. Container help them to deploy the multi-service architecture on the single box. It is possible with the help of container. And they also use this solution for their mobile team, because they have the number of tools which is running on their local machine, some tools running in the staging, might their versions are different. When they release the product into the production environment, they're facing the issue. So what they say, let's have the common set of tools on all machine. It's possible with the help of Docker. You have the images, you have the container, you have the script, so you can just bundle it and save it into the form of image, and that image you can download on any machine, either your local, either your staging, production. There will be no issue of version, there will no conflict issue with the different script you are using at a different level. So that problem has been solved, and this is a single use cases we have shown here. For more use cases, I think on docker.org it's given there. How Docker is different from virtualization? What is the difference between their both approaches? So in virtualization, we have 3 layers. If you look at, we have infrastructure, we have host operating system, and top of that, which is very important for any virtualization, that is called as a hypervisor. In virtualization environment, hypervisor allow us to share the physical resources between the virtual machines. All right, let's say example, I have the guest OS 1, 2 and 3. All right, so this hypervisor allow us to share my resources like my memory, my CPU, my HDD, my IO. So this is a role of hypervisor to share that with this guest operating system. So hypervisor, are many hypervisor in today's world. Like VMware, they have the ESXi, open source KVM, Microsoft Hyper-V, right? Zen. So there are n number of hypervisors are there, but their core responsibility, their basic responsibility is that to manage the hardware resources between the number of virtual machines, right? But here there is one constraint. The constraint is that on each virtual machines, I need operating systems. So there is a ratio of 1:1. If I have the one virtual machine, I need one operating system. If I have 10 virtual machines, then I need 10 operating systems. All right. To maintain the number of operating systems, it will be difficult for any IT operation team. All right. But why I need so much number of operating system? Because I need to run the applications. So it is not possible with virtualization to run the number of different applications without installing the operating system on the virtual machines. It's not possible. We have to install the operating system on each virtual machine to deploy the applications. So they came out, the Docker team. The Docker is completely written in the Go language. The Docker team came out from this problem. They thought, why we cannot use the base operating system like we are using the base hardware? Why we can't share this operating system between multiple container? They not called as a VM, they called as a container. So why we cannot share this OS also with container, so we not require number of operating system running on each container? And that is absolutely what the container is doing, what the Docker is doing. Docker is sharing the host operating system with number of container. So I need only one operating system to run n number of container on single hardware. And that is awesome. If you look at the diagram, we have here Docker engine, and top of that Docker engine, we have number of container running, and that container not having a operating system. It's only having the required binaries and libraries to run the application. So here we have 3 applications which are running with their own binaries, own libraries, which we require to run the application. And if you look at the virtualization approach, there we have the same application, but they require the number of OS. So Docker container technology remove that layer. They have removed the guest operating system layer, and they have built the technology in such a way that container can utilize the base operating system like they are utilizing the base hardware. This is a virtualization approach. In virtualization approach, we have staging environment, we have production environment, we have GitHub. GitHub, where we nowadays using it to maintain our code for version control. So let's say example, developer 1 is working on the task A and developer 2 is working on the task A. So maybe some part of developer 1 and some part of developer 2 should be properly given the version control. So this tool, that GitHub, is very, very powerful to doing the version control. So number of member of the team can work on the single project by maintaining their version control by using GitHub. So from the GitHub, you can do the number of automation. So you can call the code directly on your server. There are the number of Git commands. You have the number of APIs where you can use those APIs to utilize your GitHub. So in this screen, if you look at, we are using the GitHub project. So all the codes are placed on the GitHub, and from GitHub, you can using that code to deploy your application into the staging, into the production. So your code is not going to change. All right. And you have the number of project code, which is coming from the staging, and using this all, you're deploying a virtual machine. There is a provisioning script, which is shown in the red, right? So this provisioning script you are using, and you are deploying the virtual machine, and this virtual machine can be a production virtual machine. All right. But there is an issue. The issue is that your provisioning script is fine, but it is not mandatory your staging environment is similar, or it's the same hardware which has a production environment. Might their version are different, might their configuration are different. So indeed, you have the same script, you have the same code, but there are the chances where you will get the problems. So to come out from that problem, we have the Docker platform. In Docker platform, the operating system and the hardware is not going to play any role in your deployment of your application into the production or in the staging, because the whole bundle is going to be saved as Docker image. All right, and that Docker image we can directly deploy as a container, and that Docker image contain everything: your project code, your GitHub, your all the tools and technology which is required to run the application. Those everything is with Docker image, and this Docker image can be simply created by the Docker file. So Docker file is a code, set of code. You can write what are the things you require. You require the Ubuntu machine, you require the Python. In Python you require the pip. In pip we require the some set of 10 modules. In 10 modules I require the web server, I require the a small script to need to be deployed. So everything you can write in a Docker file, and Docker file can create a image for you, and you can take that image and you can deploy the container. So that container can be easily reside on virtual machine as well. So let's say example, on one virtual machine I can deploy the 10 containers. So I am using my virtual machine in an efficient way. So I'm using my virtual machine and I'm using all the resources of my virtual machine. I do not need to create n number of virtual machine. I can create n number of container for my n number of services. So this whole architecture we call as a microservice architecture, because here each and every services are deployed in the single container to reduce the dependency, to make them loosely isolated. It should not be tightly isolated, because if it tightly isolated, there will be more number of dependency from one service to another service. So if you are doing any maintenance, you are doing the code change, there will be the huge problem. So that's the reason, as much as possible, we can deploy the architecture in the form of microservice architecture. So each and every services we can drill down and deploy in the n number of container, and that help us to reduce the downtime, that help us to, without disturbing all the modules of application, we can make the change in the code for particular module. All right. So this whole diagram shows us how we can use the Docker image and Docker container to release our application in a faster way. What are the benefits of Docker and container? Docker and container allow us a simplicity. It allows the IT operation to take the benefit of Docker container, because you do not have the number of operating system to manage it. So there is a simplicity. Speed, as we discussed a lot of things about the speed, because you do not have the n number of virtual machine to manage it. So you just have to deploy the image, you just have to create a container out of it and just make it container available into the production environment. That's it. So speed is there, it's very agile. There is a interoperability, because there is a no dependency. So you can easily, individual container with a whole complete stack can be upgraded. All right, you do not have any dependency on the hardware, you do not have any dependency on the operating system. As we discussed, it's a portable. I mean, if you created your container or image, you can easily deploy anywhere on your local machine, which is running on Macintosh. You can deploy on Ubuntu, you can deploy on the Linux. All right. It's allow us as a DESTI. So it means it's allow as a microservice architecture. So where single services run with a single container without interfering the other services which is running on the other container. Let's talk about Docker architecture. Docker architecture are very pretty straight and forward, and there is no complexity involved to understand the Docker architecture. All right. So if you look at, we have Docker client. Docker client can be maybe your engineer number 1, engineer number 2, engineer number 3. So people are sitting and we call as a Docker client. So Docker client are the person who make the call to do something with the Docker. So what are the call they can give? Like they call as a pull image. They can call as a create container. They can make the call delete container. They can make the call move container. They can make the call attach network, attach storage, remove storage, XYZ. So these all action can be given from the Docker client. So Docker client use the API to make the call with the Docker daemon. So Docker daemon always running on the system where this each and every container gets created. So in our case, if you look at the big box, on that there will be the Docker daemon. If you give the number of commands from Docker client, create container, it keeps spawning number of container top of that hardware. All right. So Docker daemon always running on that box. It can be whether virtual machine or it can be a physical hardware or bare metal, anything. And this Docker container are lightweight operating systems which have required library, required binaries to run our application. So it supports all type of application, whether it's a Python, whether it's a Java based, whether it's written in any Perl language, XYZ. So you can deploy your application on top of that container. Not only application, but also it support, like for example, you want to deploy the database, easily you can deploy. And the great thing about Docker, we are going to look in upcoming our sessions, how Docker are predefined in the Docker registry. So number of things which is already created for you. You can just go ahead and download and use it. No need to configure. So that we are going to discuss later part. Let's talk about Docker engine. So basically, if you look at this Docker daemon is a Docker engine. So that if Docker engine is stopped, so all the container is not accessible. So this is very, very critical services in the Docker container technology, because this service keep live this all containers. And if this service is down, client cannot interact with the container. Even engineer cannot access this daemon. So which is very important for us, for any engineer, to make sure this Docker daemon should be always running. All right. And what is Docker engine? What is this whole Docker engine is? So if you look at this one, this part, white one, this is a small daemon which allow us to keep this whole container alive. So that is the daemon we called, and that daemon we called as a Docker D. All right. So if you in upcoming lectures we are going to do the labs. So in labs we basically will see how Docker D allows us to create number of container and manage the containers. So Docker D is very important. And the REST API is the number of API that client uses to give any action to the Docker daemon. As we discussed, we can create container, move container, delete container. This all possible with the help of this API. So it can be graphic API, that is application program interface, or you can hit the CLI. So both is possible from client end. So client end did not interact with the Docker daemon without these two medium. Either it will come from the API or it will come from the CLI. But anyway, they have to use the Docker client. Without Docker client, we cannot interact with the Docker daemon. So these two things are very important to manage the complete Docker container environment. So Docker daemon should be live, it should be up and running, and from Docker client we can give number of actions to perform on that host. All right. So here we'll stop this video. Thank you for watching it. Hello everyone. We are going to see a Docker architecture. Docker architecture follow a client server architecture. So here we will be having the Docker client and Docker server, and that is called as a Docker host. In Docker architecture, we have three main parts. One is a client, Docker host, and registry. Docker client provide a command line interface, that is CLI. This tool help us, that is CLI, interact with a Docker daemon and help us to perform number of actions. So that action can be a pull, a push, a run. So number of things we can perform. So in upcoming our session, we are going to see how we can use the Docker client to perform an action. All right. So we cannot directly do any operation without a Docker client. So when you start the Docker daemon, by default, Docker client get started, and you can use that Docker client to interact with the Docker daemon. Docker daemon have two responsibility, majorly to manage a containers and the images. Now in the diagram, we can see that there is a Ubuntu image in the image section, and Docker daemon using that image to create a container. So why we need to use that image and create a container? For any developer, for any operation to deploy any application, we need an operating system, and that image is read-only image. So we cannot write anything on that image until and all we use that image and deploy the container. So that is very important to use the image and create a container, because container adds a read-write layer on that image. So anyone can write a data on that image. I mean, can modify that image or can add another layer to top of that image. Basically, the image is a layered. So number of layers are there. For example, you created something and you save it to the version 1. Again, you created something, you save it to the version 2. So the version 1 having the layer 1 and version 2 having the layer 2. All right. So n number of layer you can keep creating on that image. So in upcoming lectures, we are going to see how we can create an image, how we can reuse an image, how we can create n number of image and use that image for creating a container. All right. Next part is registry. In registry, we can see that n number of images which is already created and which is already stored there. What is a registry and why we need that? Very important. Now, everyone need a thing should be a fast, agile, right? So for example, I need a database server, MySQL server. I'm not going to install the operating system, maybe Ubuntu or CentOS or any Linux based operating system. And top of that, I have to install the MySQL server. I have to do the hardening. And after that, I have to start the services and all. All right. If someone asks me, I have created a operating system for you. I have already installed the MySQL on that. I have already done the hardening. You can check it out and you can use for your purpose. Oh, wow. So for me, I do not have to kill my time to installing the operating system, to installing the SQL server and all. I can directly take that image from the registry. So most of the organization, most of the community, they are working with a Docker to create their image and load into the official site of Docker. So if you get any image from the official site, so that image are tested by that vendor. Let's say example, you want to download the CentOS recent image, that is CentOS 3.7.3, or you want to download the recent Ubuntu image, or you want to download the Java or Python. So all the images are available on the Docker Hub, that is we call as a registry. And Docker Hub is very smart. You do not have to do much more configuration to connect with Docker Hub. Just you want to create your account and you have to run set of few commands on your Linux box, that is from the Docker host, and you will easily get connected with your Docker Hub. So when you type any command from the client, like for example, Docker pull, it will go to the Docker daemon. That call will go to the Docker daemon, and Docker daemon use your credential that you are already set up on the Docker host machine. it will use your credential, it will log in on the Docker Hub and pull that image which you have asked for. And the important thing for image, there are the different versions of the image. In the Docker term, we call it as a tag. So you can attach the tag to that image. So for example, let's say example, I am a developer, I want to build an application and my application is a Go on, for example. So I can build an application Go on. For example, I will give the version 1. So it will be the tag version 1. Maybe other developer want to do some improvement into the application and want to tag as a version 2. They can tag it. Let's say example, I want to now work on the previous version, no problem. When I'm pulling the image, I just give the tag version 1. So it will come the previous image. If you want to go for the recent image, you just attach the tag version 2. So in that way, you can have the multiple versions of images and you can easily store on the Docker Hub and you can use for your purpose anytime. It will be readily available on the Docker Hub. Now the points come here, how much time it takes to download the whole operating system. Because usually if you take any operating system, if it is a minimal, it will be around 300 to 600 MB. If it is a GUI based, then it will be around 3 to 6 GB. All right. But these images are very lightweight. These images are very lightweight because all the binaries, all the libraries are not with this operating system. This will going to lie with your host, all the binaries, all the libraries which you already have on the Docker host. It will again not going to be in the image. It will be only the functions to run that container. So it will going to use your base operating system libraries and binaries to start or to make the container up and running. So it are very, very lightweight. So when you pull it, you will see that in a fraction of minutes, it will going to download it and you can easily create a container and start your work. So I will just give the real-time example where we can use the Docker Hub. Let's say example, I want the Python 3.4. All right. So Python 3.4, what I can do, I can install the operating system. Top of that, I can install the Python 3.4. I can do the environment setup and all, right? But if I need, I just type in the Docker Hub Python 3.4, the image will be there. So just I can pull it from the Docker daemon and I can just write my code on the Python 3.4. So it saves a lot of time. This was the ideal scenario. But for the organization, how they are using it. Let's take example, I'm into the operation team. I want to do some testing. All right. So I have some test cases where I have to need this script, where I have to need this setting, where I need environment setting and all. There is maybe n number of tasks that I have to perform in the operating system before starting the testing. So what I can do, I can create those scenario in my container and I can build that container into an image. So I will build the image and save it to the Docker Hub. All right. So Docker Hub, there is an option. You can keep publicly and private. So this kind of thing, I'm definitely going to keep as a private because it's not public. It's limited to that organization. All right. So maybe after 1 month, again, someone want to do that same testing. I do not want to again give my lot of time to create those scenario, which is already I have created and save into the form of image on the Docker Hub. All right. So what I will do, I will just download that image. I will create another container for that image. I will start my test. So it will save a lot of time to do the testing, to do the environment setup, to install the script, or to install any basic softwares into that Docker. All right. Now, next question arises. If I done a lot of job into my container and container having some issue, what I have to do? It's a very right question. In that case, we have to create a build file that is called as a Docker file. Docker file is used to create a container based on the code. For example, if you write set of code into that Docker file, it will going to deploy your container as you written in the code. So that will be our next discussion, how we are going to use the Docker file to do our job in a smarter way, in a less time, and we do not have to bother about if any problems comes, how we can going to rebuild the same environment. So that Docker file going to help us to do that job. But one question is here, if we are using a Docker file, then is it necessary to preserve our container? Really not. If you done your job, just delete it. It's not at all required, because all the setting you are written into the code. So just you have to run the code and it will create same as it is previously you were have the container. So for example, you have 10 number of job you have written in the file, you've created a container, and after that your container is deleted. In that case, no problem. I can use my Docker file, I will recreate it. So it is like a use and throw. Once your job is done, just delete it out, or you do not have to bother it. You have the file, you have the registry, that is Docker Hub, no problem. It will pull the appropriate image, what you have written in the file. It will download the appropriate application. It will do the appropriate environment setup. It will perform the necessary things, what you have written in the file, and your container is ready to go. So in that way, we can use these three components to do our job. So nowadays, where we can use this kind of models? Most of the developers already using the Docker container technology. Most of the cloud team using the Docker container technology to do their testing, to do their infra test, to their microservices, to do their number of jobs that can be save the time, that can be save the repetitive works. We can use the Docker container technology. So in short, what are the benefit of Docker container? All right. So there are the n number of benefit we already discussed in our previous slide, right? So Docker daemon help us to perform the n number of job for us. So Docker daemon, basically the name of the daemon is Dockerd. So it is always running on the Linux kernel Dockerd, and that listen for the client calls. And the clients give the number of jobs to the Docker daemon. And Docker registry, we discussed, it's a Docker Hub where we have the n number of images which is already there, and we can pull it, we can push it, or we can use it. And the images is a read-only format. So image can be any application image, maybe Apache image, maybe Java image, maybe your CentOS image, maybe Python image. So you can bundle the things into that image and you can upload it to the Docker Hub. So later on you can use that image to perform your job. All right. So thank you for watching it. Hello everyone. Today we are going to see installation of Docker. Docker is available in two editions: Docker Community Edition and Enterprise Edition. Docker Community Edition is ideally for developer, a small team looking to get started with Docker and want to experiment a Docker. We can use the Docker Community Edition to test and to explore the number of Docker features. Docker Community Edition has two update channels, a stable and edge. Stable channels provide us update every quarter, whereas the edge have a new feature every month. So if you want to test your application in the stable environment, we suggest go with a stable. If you want to explore a new feature which is recently added by the Docker community, we can use the Edge. A Docker Enterprise Edition is designed for the enterprise development, which we can use to build, ship, and run the business critical application into the production environment. We can use the Docker Enterprise Edition to scale our systems, to scale our services. Docker Enterprise Edition have the n number of special features as compared to the Docker community version. Let's get started with the installation of Docker part. To install the Docker, we need to ensure that our kernel should be 3.10 plus. So we have here 3.10, so that will work. So I'm using 64-bit system because it will not going to run on the 32-bit system. And all the CentOS and RHEL 7 come up with the 64-bit systems. Let's get a yum remove command if the package is already installed on the Linux box. So this command going to be remove. Oh, it got one package, so it will going to remove it. So we have successfully removed Docker packages. Why we have removed it? If some package is already installed, then it will going to create a issue while installing that package with other versions. So it is very important to remove all the packages before installing a new Docker system. So what are the package we have uninstalled it? We have removed Docker, Docker-common, Docker-SC Linux, Docker-engine. So this sum of packages we have checked, and if the package is already installed, we have removed it. The next part, we are going to install yum-util, device-mapper-persistent data, and LVM2. This package we require for a storage device. So this package is a storage driver. So this will allow us to communicate Docker with the storage devices. Now we are going to add the Docker stable repository. So it's my bad, it's added 2 times, so just I will cancel it. So we have successfully saved this file. So the repo file is created in this location. We can just use a cat and to read this file. So repository file is successfully added. Now we are going to refresh our packages. So we are going to use the command mmake-cache space fast. So it will going to add the cache for recently added repository. The next part is to install the Docker community version. So we'll use the command yum install docker-ce. So here we are not using the H, we are going to use the stable. So it will going to install the Docker stable version. Now it's waiting for our response. So here it's asking, are you okay to install with the docker-c package? So just press Y. So we can see that Docker-ce package got installed successfully. Now once the package is installed, we need to start the service. So here we are going to use the command docker start command, that is systemctl start docker. Now next command will check the status. So here Docker service is active and running, looks fine everything, and we'll check the top command to see the processes. So we'll use the Shift L to search Docker keyword, and we can see here Docker D and Docker container is running. All right, now we can see that by pressing Alt 9, both the services are running here, Docker D and Docker container. All right. Now we are going to deploy a hello world in Docker. This command is just to verify installation is successful, and we can see that this message show that your installation appeared to be working correctly. So here we have installed the Docker and started the services successfully. Thank you for watching it.
Hello everyone. Today we are going to see some command of Docker. In last session we have seen to install the Docker on CentOS 7. In Docker system we have Docker client, and Docker client help us to find out the number of commands which is already given in the Docker help command. So if we use the Docker help command, we can see the lot of commands here. So number of options, all the management command like config, container, image, network, node, plugin, so forth and so on, number of command that we can use. So at any point of time in Docker system, we can use the Docker help command, and this will give full list of command that Docker client can use. And any command, if you wanna explore it, let's say example, I wanted to explore Docker stop command. So Docker stop --help. So it will show us stop one or more running container. So to stop one or more running container, we can use Docker stop command. And the syntax of command is Docker stop, some option, and then the container name. Let's explore another command, Docker version. So this will give us a Docker version. So here it says client, that is 17.01.1-CE, that is community release. Let's check Docker daemon is running or not. So Docker daemon is dead. So that's the reason when we type Docker version, so only we are getting the client version. So let's start the daemon. Now we have started the Docker daemon. Let's check the status. So now it's active. Let's check the version again. So now here we get both version. because now the server is up, that is Docker daemon is up. So here we can see the version 17.06.1-CE, and both the server and client is now available and running on the system. The whole this Docker is written in the Go language, and the Go language is similar to the C, and we can find out number of documents or number of help in the Docker client itself. So the command which we are using, Docker, is a Docker client. So here if I give Docker info, so we'll get all the information about the Docker. So just I scroll up a little bit. So here we can see the Docker info. So as of now we have 2 container. Out of it, none of running, none of is paused, and both the container are in stopped state. We have total 1 image where we have the server version here. We have the storage driver, that is overlay, and backing file system is XFS. So all the detail, very important detail, and in the form of summary, we can check with the help of Docker info command. So this several piece of information is readily available for anyone working on the system. So here we can see the architecture, here total memory, here the operating system version, that is CentOS 7, here kernel version, that is 3.10. So all this information we can check with the Docker help command, and also we can check more detail with the Docker info command. Now let us try to explore more number of commands. So let's say example, maybe I want to search if there is any container running. So I will use the command search. So Docker search. Let's take example, if I type BusyBox, so it will search whether any BusyBox images are available or not. So here we can see this many number of images are available by the name BusyBox. All right. So how it search the images? First, basically it search the images locally. If locally is not available, it search into the Docker Hub. So now it's showing most of the images are coming from the Docker Hub. Let's go one by one what this information is. The first column is a name. It's give you the Docker image name. So this is all the Docker image name. So this is a complete name. So basically it's stored in the form of like this. So if you go example of any image, like let's say example, I want fly.nn BusyBox. So I will type this complete path. So it will take the BusyBox from this account. So this is very necessary to give the proper image name when you store your images. So these are the images stored by the different community. So we can check those images and we can use those images if required. So the first column is the Docker image name. The column 2 is a description about that image. So we have here description. So most of the description you can say BusyBox base image. Few of the description may have the included BusyBox base image for ARM. The third column, that is star. What is the star is here? The star is here how many people have already started their project by using these images. So we can say that how many number of people already use that image. All right. And the official, whether it's a officially image or not, or whether it's marked as an official image. If it is a okay, then that means it's a official image. So we can go ahead and we can use it. Let's say example, I want to use the recent BusyBox image on my system. When we say BusyBox image, that means we are going to use this image to deploy our instance, or we can say the container. All right, so to use this image and deploy the container, we'll use the command docker run -t -i busybox. So here you will see the tag will automatically assign. If we not give any tag, it will take the latest one and it will going to pull that image from Docker Hub. So pull means it's a simple download. So it simply download the images, and it already we have given the command run. So it will automatically start that container after building that container. So it will use the image, it will build the container, and it will automatically start, and it will also provide us a shell. So here we'll understand the option I and T stand for. So I stand for interactive and T stand for TTY terminal. So here we'll get the interactive shell, so we can go ahead and start our work. Let's example, if I type ls, so I will get the all the directory residing. So pwd, so we are already in a slash. All right, so let's say example, if I type who am I, so we'll say root. By default it's logged on root. Let's type date command, so it will show date. Now for example, I'm done with my work, so I will type exit, and it will just exit that container and it's come out. Now let's say example, what was the container name? I want to list it, so we'll say docker ps. So in docker ps we can see that we are getting none of the container as of now here. So that means ps will show only the running container. So as of now none of the container is running, so that's the reason we are not getting any container over here listed. Let's say example, if you want to check all the container whether they are running or whether they are turned off, so we can check. We can see here 1 2 3. So as of now 3 containers are available, and they are coming from this images. So one is coming from the image busybox, another container is coming from the image hello world, and next container is also coming from the hello world. What are the command we can use? So if you use the busybox, you can go for sh. This is a test program, so it will say slash hello. We can't use it, it's just for the testing, and it will show us when it was got created and the current state. Exited means currently it is turned off, so no longer running it, and none of the port is exposed. So we'll discuss about the port in more detail in our upcoming sessions. Let's see the command to list the images. So we'll give the command docker space images. So now it will show us the local image. Now this is the difference, guys. In docker space images, we'll get the local images. It's not the image coming from the Docker Hub. This images is now stored on our system. So at any point of time, if you want to deploy busybox with latest tag, it will not going to download the busybox from Docker Hub, but it will take that image from our local repository, that is from the local image, and it will going to create the container. So as of now we have 2 images here. We can see the image ID, and we can see when this image got created and the size of the image. Let's say example, if you want to rerun the same busybox, so how we can do that? So we'll say again same command, docker space run space I space -t, and after that the container name. So we'll say busybox. Now what is the point here? Why we are running it again? The point is here, in first go, when we tried the first time command, this container was not available. So it find out that image name and it container got deployed. All right, container got deployed here. Now in second run, already this container is there. So we are not going to use this container, but we want to use our images. We want to use this our image, and we want to deploy our container. So we have to say the tag also. Now it will not going to connect with Docker Hub and download it, because first it will check the local repository, and if it is available in our local repository, it will not going to connect with the Docker Hub to download that image. So in this case, it will take very less time to start because already image is there. So now we are going to do the exit, and we'll say ps hyphen a. So here we can see we got this one is just created 30 seconds before. So this one we have created from our local image. So when you have the local image, it's a very small time. It's a fraction of second to start that container by using that image. So now here we can say that it's coming from busybox colon latest, the version name. So this is always the version name, and we simply called as a tag also. So you can add the number of tag when you are deploying the number of images. So tag will keep the record of your version. All right. So let's say example, someone want to run the 2.0. So how we can get that uh, Docker running, container running from the image 2.0. So Docker run hyphen t hyphen I busybox. So that is the image, but here we are interested to go for 2.0. So if it is available locally, so it will going to fetch, but here we can see in the tag 2.0 is not there. So it will going to connect with the Docker Hub to check whether busybox is available in the tag section 2.0. So it says unable to find busybox colon 2.0 locally. All right. And on the repository also, I mean the GitHub repository also won't have any images with the name busybox with the tag 2.0. So that's the reason we are not able to download that image. So it was just for our testing purpose. So let's run the command docker ps hyphen all. So here we can see that container ID is created when we create any container, and here we can see that busybox image name, as we can see the command and when it got created, and as of now it's in exited mode. So if someone asks you, let's say example, this exited mode is turned off, let us start it. So how we are going to do? So the command is docker start, and after that that name of that container. Now it got started, but we not got terminal after starting it because we have not added any interactive mode. All right. So when you start, by default it will going to start the container. So we can see in the ps it's running. All right, it's not in exited mode, it's running, but we not got any console because we have not asked for the console. So if you want to access the console, then we have to use the interactive mode. So let's say example docker so we'll use hyphen it, so that is interactive and tty, and after that our container, and we'll say bin/sh. So now here we got an terminal for the Docker which is already running. So this is one way we can take the console, or we can get into that container by using the Docker exe command -it interactive terminal and the container ID with the shell. So we can exit from this, and if we check here, now still that Docker is running. So if you want to stop that Docker container which is already running, so Docker stop and the container ID. So here we can use the exact container ID. Now it will take few seconds to turn off that container. So once the container turned off, we can check the command docker ps. So here we are getting no container listed. That means now container is successfully stopped. So thank you for watching this video. Hello everyone, welcome back. Now we are going to see more command of image and containers in Docker system. We are going to deploy the Apache server in Docker container. Apache server is very popular web server, and most of the organization using the Apache server to host their application and websites. So what is the objective of this session? We are going to deploy the container. We are going to deploy the Apache server into that container, and we are going to test that web server. So let us first check the Apache image. So the daemon name is httpd, and most of the Apache images are stored with the name httpd. So we can see that multiple images is stored in the repository, in the Docker repository. So here we can see that one image is official. So we are going to use the official image for our today's tutorial. Now to pull the image, we are going to give the command docker pull httpd. So docker pull command is going to just pull that image. It will not going to run or start that container. So basically if we use docker run, it's pull also, and it after that create a container and start by default. And if you added a -t, I and T, it will give you the access into the container. So here it take few more minutes to get downloaded. So downloaded is completed. So let's check Docker image. So we got here httpd image with the tag latest. Now we are going to use this image to run our container. So we are very familiar with docker run command, but this time we'll use the one more option, that is -d for detached mode. So docker run -d for detached mode --name. So we'll give my web server. This is our server name. We can pick any name, and it's coming from httpd, and we can add the tag latest. Now we got a long number. So this number is our container ID. So what is the advantage of detached mode? So let's say example, we do not want interactive mode. That means the shell. So basically it will start the container in background. So if we check command docker ps, so here this container that is just we have deployed this. 1A3890 something. So this container is created here and it's running from last 23 seconds and it's created. Now important thing is here, if you look at the port, now container is by default running on the port 80. All right, but this port is, can we access from the outside? It's no, because this container not expose the port outside by default. Okay, so if we have query or if we want evidence, how we can check whether this port is exposed or not? So what is port? Let's say example, if you are running number of services on one server, to connect with that particular service we need to communicate to that port. IP address is to reach to that server, but port is used to communicate with that specific service. So now on this container, it might be possible there other services can be also running. So how we can connect with HTTPD service? So HTTPD service is currently running on the port 80. So we can reach to this container and check the port 80. So is it possible to reach on the port 80 from outside? So let's take the command docker, and in the docker command we are going to check whether port is opened or not from the outside. So this command give the idea whether we can use this port for communication from outside. So we can use the command docker port, and after that the container name. So in our case the container name is my web server. So we can use any name, either we can use container name or we can go with ID also. Now no output. So no output means this port is not exposed. So that means we can't use that port from outside, but our container machine is running, so we can check that machine is running. All right, so how we can bring that port outside? So in Docker container technology we called as expose. So you can expose the multiple ports of multiple services by using the expose command in Docker file. So in Docker file we are going to discuss in our upcoming sessions, but today we are going to see that how we can bring the Apache port outside so we can access that port or we can access that site. All right, so let's say example, your website is hosted on this container, but you are not going to connect to that port from outside. All right, so if you can log into that container by using command docker exec -it, and after that the container ID and /bin bash. So we got an access and Apache is here, and if we give the command systemctl status httpd, so it's basically cat/etc/releases. So it's a Debian, so Debian based, so here no systemctl, so no problem. Let's check with other command ps-ef. In ps-ef we can check the processes. So we can check the processes and we see that this daemons is already running, that is httpd. So we got an evidence that service is running. All right, so let's exit from this. So we'll say exit. If we exit, what will happen? It will just log out the system and container will go down. So now if we type docker ps, we got exited from the session, but container is still live because we have run this container in detached mode. So that is the advantage of detached mode. If we have access this container without detached mode, if we press the exit, then definitely container will get logged out. So this is the difference we have to always remember. If you want to make the container persistent, so we need to use the detach mode. So until and all we stop that container, it will not going to be exited, or it will not going to be stopped. All right, so now port is not exposed, so we are going to stop this container and we'll do some settings. Excuse, and our container name is my web server. So we have stopped that container successfully. Now we are going to remove that container. So to remove any container, the command is docker space rm space, and after that the our container name. So now container is removed. So how we can check that? Docker ps-a. So in this list we can see that no longer my web server is there. So we have removed. Why we have removed? Because we want to redeploy it with the option with port expose. So to expose the port, we can use the same command, docker run. So we are going to run in detached mode, so it will run in background. So hyphen name, so we'll give the same name, my web server, and this time we are going to use the option P. So P is used to expose the port, so we'll ask to expose the port on 80. So 80 is the host machine port, and another 80 is the container port. So this container port is going to be exposed on this host machine port. So that means on this local system 80 going to be busy. So before we hit this command, let's make sure that where on this local system daemon is running or not. So here also already HTTPD is running on this local system, that is on this operating system. So we'll use the different port to expose on the local system. So that's the reason we have checked this, otherwise it will conflict. You can't run multiple services on the same port. So hyphen d hyphen name my server, my web server will give. All right, hyphen p. Now host port will choose something different, so we'll choose 1 2 3 4 6 4 times 6 80, and after that the image from which we are deploying this, so httpd, and we want to go with the tag. So how we'll get the tag? So we need to check our image list. So in image list we can see that we have to scroll up. So this is a tag. So why we have cross check? So in by default we have latest, but might be if you have the different tag, so just confirm with the command docker space images. So that command will give the image name and tag name. So we have successfully run the docker run command with the detached mode with the name my web server, and we have exposed the container port 80 on the 4 times 6. All right, now how we'll verify whether this port is exposed or not? How we'll check that whether this port is now listening or not? So same command we'll use, docker port my web server. So now it says this is an container port, that is 80. Now it expose on all IP on the host machine on the port number 4 times 6. All right. Now I will check any IP. So let's say example I have 56.102. So I will come in the browser of any browser from where this IP is accessible. So I can see that this from Windows machine, we first check the connectivity. So we'll ping the IP. We'll ping the IP first, 192.168.56.102. So we'll add the command ping. So now it seems fine. We got a response. So we'll open the 192.168.56.102. Now this is a host machine, so we are not bothered about host machine. So we want to move on the container. So when we say 192.168.56.102 and 666, so it says site unreachable. So we need to check this from here. Yum install. E-links. We'll first check from here. So here we see the some issue while accessing the website. So we are getting the error unsafe port. So let's check from the same host machine. So we'll type the e-links, and after that we'll hit just enter. So here we need to type the host IP. So we'll type 192.168.56.102 is our IP, and the container port which we exposed on 4 times 6. So container 80 port is exposed on this host machine, that is 192.168.56.102, and it is exposed on 4 times 6 port. So let's say enter. So it says it's work. That means we are successfully access the container Apache process or Apache website from this host machine. But we are not able to access the same container website from outside from this host. So this is not an issue with any port or configuration, but this 4 times 6 port is unsafe for the Chrome. So that's the reason it's giving us a message error unsafe port. So we have found out the solution for this. The solution is that we have to go in our application. There will be the Chrome exe. We have to use this Windows command to add the unknown port. So 4 times 6 we have added. So command is explicitly -allowed -ports and the port number. So once you add the new port, so we can able to access it. So now we can give the IP address of host and the container 80 port, but 80 port is exposed on 4 times 6. So we'll hit enter. So here it says it works. So what we have learned how to pull the image. We have learned how to use that image to create a container. So in this tutorial we have covered how we can create and deploy the Apache server, and the main we have covered how we can expose the port. Thank you for watching this video.